Imagine being at the beach. You're putting your goggles on because you're about to dive down into the water to see what's underneath that surface. Next thing you know, all different sizes and shapes of fish are swimming by you, and you see different rocks and corals of an array of colors. Now, the sight of this majestic underwater community makes you feel like you're part of one with nature. But at the corner of your eye, you see a piece of trash start to float by and land on the reef and get stuck there. Next thing you know, the size of that trash grows bigger and bigger, and a boat speeds by, stirs up everything, and pieces of coral start to break off. But then another boat comes by, stops, and then drops an anchor right onto the reef, almost destroying the entire reef. In a matter of seconds, you've just seen a reef become polluted and destroyed. Now, coral reefs around the world have been neglected and destroyed by many factors in the past decades. And it's gotten so bad that the coral reefs are starting to die off, as well as the fish and all of its inhabitants. The major factors relate to the destruction caused by pollution, recreational negligence, boating negligence, and runoff. And I'm here to tell you that about the coral reef crisis and help you understand what is causing this crisis to continue and how each and every one of us can help make the slightest difference. Now, I know this is a big, impactful topic that's about to be given by a freshman in college, but be aware that I do know what I'm talking about. Now, most people who live in Florida and who are water babies think that they know everything about anything involving this topic, but I'm here to tell you that I had the credibility in the last 4 years in high school that I was a member and president of the Marine Science and Aquaculture Club. And in that club, I was able to work and do research with affiliated professional organizations like Planet Fish, who I had the privilege of meeting the owner and founder, Fabian Cousteau, the grandson of Jacques Cousteau, that I got to work with in 2 of those 4 years. Now, coral reefs are a part of me and my hobby and my duty to make sure that people are educated, aware, and active in helping maintain not just the aquariums in their home, but the big one outside of our coast. So to understand and be clear and concise of what I'm about to say is to help you understand what this crisis is, what's going on with our coral reefs, what's causing this epidemic, and how we can make a difference. Now, there's a seriousness of this destruction of the coral reefs around the world. The Global Coral Monitoring Network said that a quarter of the world's reefs are either gone or severely destroyed. In 2011, 75% of the world's reefs are being threatened by a combination of disease, development, and other pollutions. It's been so bad recently that organizations have had to make that forward step to creating tracking programs to monitor the health. Like the Florida Wildlife Commission made the Coral Reef Evaluation and Management Monitoring Project, which has been active since 1996. The NOAA preserves, protects, and restores the nation's coasts and ecosystems. The NOAA also works with coastal resource managers to share the knowledge, promote research, and innovate new strategies and ideas. Elkhorn and staghorn corals were the first corals to be placed in the Endangered Species Act in 2006. Now, these are a big claim to make sure that we have the programs that we need, because these are branching corals, which are faster growing corals. They recover rapidly, and they build the structure that these reefs sit on. But realize that if these corals are endangered, these weaker organisms, how are they going to survive this epidemic? So allowing the corals to potentially die off is what is going to affect the reefs community, and as well as our recreational and commercial standards by destroying all the fish that live in those reefs, as well as reducing the population that fisheries need in order to maintain themselves. And there's 3 negatives of problems in the destruction of the reefs. And the big one is known as bleaching. That's caused by sea level rising, changing in temperature, and acidification. Now, the sea level rising, when that happens, that means that the water is rising, but the floor isn't. So that means that the coral reefs are in deeper waters, and because they're a fragile community, they're already sitting in perfect conditions. Once that's tampered with, it's a downhill slope from there. Now, changes in temperature is because of global climate changes, and because of the sea level rising, that means that the temperature of the water is either going to be an ice bath or a hot tub to these corals. And if they're anywhere away from moderately warm waters, they will potentially die. Acidification is the other main stressor that's causing bleaching. And from those pollutants that are washed away or left behind in the ocean, when it breaks down, it ruins the chemical balance in that reef. Now, when it enters that reef zone, it inevitably kills those corals. Researchers from the PBS show Changing Seas describe this acidification process as if somebody's pouring chemicals in their skin and leaving a horrible burning sensation. And for some corals, depending on the concentration levels, it will dissolve the corals. Now, with all these horrible effects stemming from this problem, the issue is what's causing it? The pollution of ignorant tourists, waterfront homeowners, as well as recreationists in coastal development, construction, and farming methods, one of which all stems to runoff. And that's one of the primary causes. And people don't understand that runoff goes to any type of water, body of water, and can get into the aquifers and move with the current. So it spreads. Pesticides from agricultural farmers that get rid of the insects and pests eventually get washed away by the rain into canals and lakes. Eventually, going to channels which the Florida government made years ago, which exit into the oceans. Same with a lot of cleaning products, oils, gasolines, and so on. If you're in Florida, I bet that if you go into any part of the coast, you will find leftover trash, either from broken down boats, traps that were left over, bait, so on. Now, when I was working with a program with Planet Fish at Johnny Lloyd Park, if you had my eyes for that day, you'd find piles of cans left in the shallow banks of a channel. You'll also find fishing lines cut up and tied up on railings and mangroves and laid across the sand. In most state parks, they don't have a crew to go pick up and clean up after people have had their cookouts or after they've called it a day for fishing. So the only time that people do clean is the people themselves. So the status quo isn't what's going to fix the problem. It's the status quo that's causing the problem. Now, there needs to be people to take that first step into preventing other people from polluting. So, since we've figured out the causes and we've established what's going on, there needs to be an active availability of anybody can go out and help this, either with a hobby or their job. Beach cleanups. Beach cleanups are self-explanatory, and they aren't done enough by beachgoers or the average homeowner. So I ask you, if you were to go out to the beach, would you go to a clean one or one that's made up of nothing but soda cans and fishing lines that are engulfing the beach? But I know that several other people have that drive to start that fire and go out and do something, but they can't. They can't go out and dive into the water. They can't donate money to organizations like Nova Southeastern does. So what I want you to do is grab a garbage bag, wearing gloves preferably, walking down the beach, up and down the piers, and just clearing all remnants of trash. And if it doesn't involve any hard work, it doesn't involve any extra expense or time, but except for a few minutes to an hour collecting something that somebody else was too ignorant to pick up themselves. So become a lifesaver to wildlife and sea life. Now, it doesn't matter if it's on the beach or it protects the water, just making sure that the waves don't bring that out to get entangled with the sea life. And I'm sure that if I were to ask any of you that same question, would you prefer a beach that's clean or one that's engulfed with trash? Which one? Therefore, I bet you would say the clean one, and I want you to do a beach cleanup so that other people, not just yourself, can have that privilege of a clean beach. So again, when you go out and do that beach cleanup, remember the purpose of why you guys are doing it. The coral reefs are dying, and it's because of pollution, diseases, and environmental effects that's being caused by our carelessness. And if you can't make a contribution by going out and diving with organizations like the Coral Reef Foundation and Planet Fish, then make that difference on shore. Grab a bag, or anybody, a friend, just anybody that can help, because we are all playing a role of either making it worse or fixing this epidemic. And that's why I'm not going to let this stand. I'm going to make a stand. I have a garbage bag in my hand, and I know I have a room of people that are anxious to get started. So, are you ready to make a difference?
Yes. We'll pack that.